So this interesting topic. I think Africa, it has to grow. If it has to grow, which it is going to grow, we need to look at the ways of investment to pour into this rising Africa. So this session is about investment. We have our guest with experience and expertise in this area. Let me start with the lady first. What do you think? What are the major trends in terms of hospitality in Africa, comparing to the rest of the region or wider region, Middle East, Europe? How different is African trends? Are they have some commonalities? Is there some differentiation?
I think when we look at Africa, one thing we look at is we always jump a step. When we went from mobile telephony, we didn't have landlines, we went straight to mobile. I think it's the same thing we see today in Africa. When we talk about ecotourism, we talk about sustainability, we talk about connection to nature. That's what people are traveling for. That's what Africa is offering. It's offering an authentic experience. It's offering an opportunity to reconnect with nature. And I think that's at the forefront of where development is going. I think when we talk about wellness, reconnecting with nature, Africa already is there when you talk about leisure. When you're talking about city hotels, I think the conversations that have been going around, is there space for lifestyle hotels in African cities? There is, because there are these people who want to connect with the world. And I think that's what we're really now seeing, where we're jumping a step. I think it was interesting watching your presentation, because a lot of what you were talking about, farm to table, that's already happening. That integration, it's not out of need, but it's actually, or trend, it needs to jump a step. We don't have the value chain, so hotels need to think, where am I sourcing from? Can I grow? Can I connect with local farmers? So I think those are the trends that we're going to continue to see, and that kind of hop jump in the hospitality sector as well.
So if I just highlight what you just said, so globally there are three biggest trends in the world, and two of them will cross $1 trillion. The nature-based tourism and the wellness, they're $1 trillion. And luckily, Africa is blessed with three things. Is it a nature? They have a nature. Is it a wellness? Again, they have. And the third thing is what you said, farm to table. I think nobody can do better than them with the fertile land. Here we are spending a lot of money to make it happen. You will have it naturally. So three biggest emerging global trends. Africa is blessed that they can start with it with not much cost in it.
Yeah, I think it's necessity that will make it happen, and is making it happen.
Absolutely.
Amir, what are the major key markets in Africa which are now, you can see they are more on a growth trajectory than some other markets within Africa? I mean, your position and your travel around and your hotels around Africa gives you good insight into this overall bigger picture, macro level African picture. What do you?
I mean, we've been blessed in Africa. We were an early adopter and believer in the African continent. We started our first investment in 2008. Not a lot of international operators, believed in the continent at that stage, and for us, it's been a blessing. We started in East Africa, and then we ventured into Sub-Saharan Africa. I think, it's very interesting how the evolution now in terms of the travel, the infrastructure, the government politics, I think that's really where you have to continuously follow the trends and the changes. Rwanda was a fantastic model with the RDB and how they supported foreign investors and supporting, FDI, and bringing them together with legislations domestically as well to make it investor-friendly. So we've seen continuous growth in Rwanda, in particular in the wildlife tourism. We see, in East Africa, we're very bullish. We do believe in particular Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Zanzibar, a big developing market at the moment. We're actually developing branded residences in Zanzibar as well. And we believe that's another trend that's going to continue moving forward in Africa, is more into, beside what we said, the wellness, the sustainability, the wildlife tourism, travel with purpose. We believe mixed-use developments is going to be the way forward, as the cost of capital increases, as investors are looking for better returns, you need to look at different elements. So for us, we do branded resi. We're actually retrofitting some of our existing developments as well, plus new developments with branded resi. In Zambia, another great country, great developments. We own the Royal Livingston and the Avani Vic Falls, and we're looking at further developments there because we have the concession, maybe developing branded resi within the space. In Zimbabwe, we just opened our first property, 1st of December. So we do see still opportunities for growth there as well. And of course, South Africa. South Africa is a great market, a lot of opportunities. I mean, Cape Town has been continuously booming. But I believe now, Johannesburg is coming back out. You start to see, some of these countries in Africa struggled throughout COVID. They had a very difficult time getting out of COVID. But you see now the results, 23, 24. 24 is going to be a great year. And I believe 25 onwards as well, we're going to see more investments, not only in tented camps, leisure, retreats, but also in leisure, in key cities, business and leisure combined. As you've seen it here, we see a lot of that into key CBD areas and cities across Africa. So there's a lot of opportunities.
Isn't the leisure can be one of the tools to bring tourists to you? I mean, you go for business, and with African markets, what they have to offer, if you mix these two elements together, you get a unique market. And people will come to, love to come to those cities or countries where there's an advantage of two-in-one sort of.
That's it. I mean, you factor that plus factor connectivity in the subcontinent, right? You have most travels happen in zigzag in Africa when I'm there, right? It's either through Joburg, through Cape Town, through Nairobi. And as you're traveling through, you can combine the business and leisure, bring the family, combine the two. There's a huge amount of appetite and shortage in infrastructure and developments.
Amazing. What are the key, so we have investors here. Mm-hmm. I want to invest also. Tell me, what do you feel what are the key hotspots, areas or products that are ripe enough to invest right now?
I think, as Amir had mentioned, I think we look at cities. I think city developments are happening. Yeah. The infrastructure has improved across most of these major African cities. It's there. I think what is still so ripe is the bush and beach experience.
Sorry?
The bush and beach experience, so the safari experience, the beach experience. Yeah. And I think when we look at how in a lot of different countries, the different safari and conservation models in place, where governments are giving concessions, they're giving leases for you to build 15-year, 25-year, 30-year. So I think that's where there is a really great opportunity for investors to come in, because with government support, you at least have that protection. They are also giving incentives. So we're starting to see tax breaks. You go to Tanzania, they have a whole, public sector, private sector partnership to actually support investors in how they can understand, how they can actually develop further. So I think that really is, for me, a big area for opportunity for investors.
Again, safaris, wildlife. The beauty is you don't even have competition. I can't compete with you out of UAE or Middle East. Europe can't compete. Nobody has those products. So you are sitting on a set of unique opportunities which it's hard to compete.
Yeah.
It's true. When you look at, I'll speak because I'm from Kenya, I can offer bush, so the safari, the wildlife, you get to see the lakes, you get to see the mountains, you get to see the beaches. And across Africa, this is present. Across the different countries in sub-Saharan Africa, that opportunity of seeing something unique that can't be replicated anywhere else.
I mean, are we ready in terms of lawmaking policies? At the end of the day, investor, they want to look at the safeguarding their interest and investments. Are we ready there in terms of government policies, procedures, bringing foreign investment, taking it out?
It's a tricky one, because there's a lot of different facets and a lot of different models across the sub-Saharan continent. And we've invested everywhere from Mozambique to Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia. We've gone through ourselves, we've brought in partners. And I've said the one thing I think the key to growth in Africa is bring local partners. That's the one thing we learned early on. You've got to bring local expertise and partners that do know how to diverse the landscape, because the landscape does change quite rapidly. There's a lot of different elements. You've seen it now, what's happening in, unfortunately, Mozambique. Botswana just went through a change. There's continuously changes happening. But I think in general, they're starting to realize more and more the importance of hospitality and tourism, as not just in terms of bringing FDI in, but also the ecosystem that it can develop. And I think what's, historically was the issue is, even the hospitality operators didn't understand the purpose of their brands and what they bring to the table. We built the Anantara brand based on experiential luxury. That was the adoption in 2001 when we built the brand. Now everybody's talking about experiences and being out in the beach and bush and having to adopt travel with purpose and local communities and human capital, etc. Because now the operators and the investors starting to see that, because the travelers are demanding that. That's why now is the right time to enter Africa, because now suddenly the greatest USP of this continent is at the forefront of what the traveler wants, which is, you don't necessarily want that infrastructure. In some of the locations we're developing, having lack of infrastructure is the greatest benefit of that destination. So if you look at Kafui, where we're building a lodge, there's nothing there. It is incredibly wildlife. It's rural, but that's what the beauty of it is. But they're going in with a tented camp experience, very unique offering, 12 to 14 keys. You built it up and established it in 12 to 18 months. And the positioning, obviously, at a very high level. What you can develop in terms of domestic economy is incredible. Be it from the flora, fauna, bush, food, agriculture, everything, the entire ecosystem of hospitality. What we can bring back to the African continent is incredible. So for me, I think that piece, working together with local legislators and governments, hopefully we'll see a major boom happening over the coming years. And we're, again, very big believers. But I think what's important for Africa, and I think, is to factor in the risk. We do that. In our businesses, we've looked at investment rates of return of north of 15 to 18%, some of 20 to 25%, because that's the risk factor you have to establish when you invest in Africa. And you look at a long hold, not a short hold.
Plus, long haul or short. Those operator, that's based on my experience in the region. Those operator who took a pain to go to the region which was not ready yet, and took punches, bruises. In the long run, they are the winner. So they didn't wait when the market is ripe, and they go and collect the money and transfer it wherever they transfer it. The operator like those who sit there, who went through thick and thin. When the market grows, the investor, they remember them, they walk with them. And so this is the benefit of going earlier, taking pain and punches, but in the longer run, it is beneficial. What do you think, isn't it what little I know about tourism is the local investment and the local tourism first has to be activated in order for foreign investors and foreign visitors to come. So how do you see the local investment within Africa coming from the local entities?
I think if you look at most of Africa's existing hotel properties, especially if you go back to the 90s to the early 2000s, it was government and local investors. I think it's only today that we're starting to see institutional, international investors coming in. I'm a representative of a local investor. We're the ones who were at the forefront of actually developing that. And not ourselves, but I think locals. I think where we'll continue to see and where we've reached is actually maturity where we're ready for now international investors, where there is actually transaction in existing properties, so brownfield transactions. And I think that's where we'll see a lot of momentum happening across the continent, especially in the more mature markets, whether you're talking about Kenya or you're talking about Rwanda or South Africa, where they have that history. I think when we talk about local tourism, I think the local economies are in different stages. I think and I'll use my own example in Kenya, local tourism is what has sustained that country during the tough times when insecurity was a big issue. It was the fact that hotels created local rates, resident rates, that the government encouraged locals to travel. And
so how is it now? So locals have done their part. Now, is it, as Amir mentioned, is the best way is with the local partners, local investor. So you have developed a base to attract international investor. So do you prefer a JV with international investor to go on a little bit faster track for investment purposes?
Yes, I think there is. I think there are opportunities. There are a lot of owners who are already for JVs to actually be able to expedite, to grow faster. I think the one thing that's also been is actually access to debt. So I think there is a lot of room for DFIs because they have the mandate is economic growth. And when Amir just said it, every guest employs 5 people directly. So now the growth that actually comes through that. So I think that's probably something that needs to come in. And I think there's an opportunity for international investors to partner with locals to really speed up growth. I think there is room for DFIs to also, and really cheaper capital to really drive that momentum across the continent.
I mean, where do you see some, this big, regional and global funds, investment houses, do you see them moving towards Africa? And what incentive you feel will fast-track that journey and attraction towards Africa? What are the incentives?
I mean, there's a lot of domestic major lenders as well. Both if you look in South Africa, very mature market in the lending space, a lot of opportunities and a lot of incentives to support foreign investors to grow. We see that both across Africa, but also out of here. A lot of funding support out of here as well. So I think there's definitely an appetite. I think what's interesting is the shift of movements as well in terms of investments. So, obviously, we've had a lot of strong US demand coming in. Now with China and India, it's a big market that's starting to move into sub-Saharan Africa. And we're starting to see a lot of movement in that space. And with that, obviously, there's a lot more support in unlocking funds because a lot of infrastructure projects are happening from Chinese developers. Indian support, a lot of markets are coming in. Middle Eastern investors, look at Rwanda. A lot of it is Middle Eastern money as well. And in Sub-Sahara, they even established an office to support Middle Eastern investors in Sub-Saharan Africa. So there is a lot of support coming in to grow part of the economies in Africa. And I think both that and North Africa as well, if you establish further up, including Morocco, including Egypt, and that obviously starts trailing down. And as the investors are starting to establish bases in North Africa, the eyes are starting to look across into other markets like Zanzibar because of the connection, with the Middle East from the past. A lot of investors are going there, and from there they're starting to then look out into other spaces across Sub-Sahara.
So, Amir, with this, you're saying Americans are coming, Chinese are coming, which means airline connectivity has improved over the years.
We hope. Emirates has added more aircrafts now. Africa is becoming on the radar. Qatar Airways now flies into Lusaka, which is great for us. On the other side in Zimbabwe, a lot more happening as well in terms of airlines. So they're really starting to push a lot more airlines flying in. However, infrastructure needs to still develop. We still have a lot of areas of infrastructure shortfall, which needs to further enhance. And I think it's a happy phase. We want to make sure that we develop it in key core cities, but it not ruin some of the economies and the beauties of what Africa has to offer. For us, we look at hospitality in the entire 360. And just to digress back to your presentation earlier, a few things that I took away from your presentation. We believed in that early on, and we invested in wellness, we invested in F&B, invested in AI. But funny enough, when you go to Africa, whilst nature-based tourism is key, wellness and longevity hubs is key, and those are the things we believe in, including retreats and wellness spaces. But I think the human interaction is still fundamental for the business. And the beauty of Africa is the human capital. True. It's the people. So I don't believe as much as AI and technology is being developed, I think a lot more in the back to increase productivity so we can enhance more services in the front with the people that we have. And I think the biggest shortfall moving forward in Africa is human capital. There is a massive shortage of developing good talents. And that's why we built the hospitality school in conjunction with Le Roche. And we're actually working on doing scholarships and to develop and bridging the gaps in terms of education.
That's a great initiative. Very rare even to see in this part of the world even.
We hope. Thank you.
One thing I should compliment that Anantara is one of the first one bringing this wellness and marriage with nature. And the rest, others try to follow it. They were one of the first one. It's same like W started the first lifestyle sort of a trend, and now everybody is trying to catch up with it or having the same. Absolutely. Anantara, I must say, is one of the first ones.
Thank you.
What are some of the risk and rewards? We want to invest back in Africa, so please give us some highlights, just some highlights. What are the?
I think the risks are known, of course. There's security, political instability, economic. I think those are the known. I think in terms of the reward, I think Amir spoke about it. The returns that you're able to actually demand as an investor, as a brand, that's something you can't get anywhere else. And I think that's really what has you now mitigate. I think that spread across different sectors, across different countries, balances you out as an investor. When one country is high, you're able to stabilize that with a country that's low, and I think that's what we'll continue to see as the region stabilizes. We will then see the slowdown in that level of return, because where else can you say that I want to pay back a hotel in 3 years? But you can on the continent. That's the reward you're getting for the risk that you're taking. And I think having a long-term view, being the first mover, then the locations, I think, and I think Amir has spoken to some of that. Anatar has this beautiful location in Mozambique. In 10, 15, 20 years, will other brands be able to find those locations? No, because they'll be taken. And I think that's the reward of being able to actually identify unique, beautiful, wild locations.
So the takeaway from the whole discussion is, there is a level of challenge, but then it's offset with the rewards. The level of rewards which are there are just amazing. So thank you very much for your insights.
Super.
Really,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.